In this episode of Dear Sunga, what happens when the things you love start feeling like a burden?
I would cry all the time and I would get bullied for it.
She is bold, she's hilarious, and she will make you feel like you've known her your whole life.
Ever since I made that decision, all of a sudden the pressure is like released.
Today, she's getting real about losing her spark, showing up when you don't feel like it, and the one decision that gave her peace. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Today, I have a very special guest. Her name is Aigalesala Toelupe. I'm so excited. She's so full of energy, very magnetic. And so, just with any guess, who is Sala in this season of your life?
We're starting with the hard questions. That's always the hardest question for me to answer with any interview. I would say, first and foremost, I'm a daughter of God. I'm a wife, mother, daughter. Out of all my siblings, I'm the oldest. There's 5 of us total. Friend, sister. I would say that those are my foundational roles that define who I am. And then there's many secondary external roles that I feel define me.
And what could those roles be? What are some of those roles?
I'm a little bit of everything. I'm a creative performer, entertainer. A lot of my friends and cousins, the girls that are close to me, have identified me as an empath, which I agree with. I've always been very emotional growing up. Content creator. I feel like I dabble in a lot of different things.
You have such great energy. You have such a great platform. I'm curious, what is it that inspired you when you were young to explore that creative side?
A lot of it is maybe natural, but my environment and just the way my family and that space they created made it easier for me to enjoy being creative. I was born and raised in Hawaii. At different parts of my life, I would move to American Samoa because my grandmother, my mom's mom, I'm named after her. We've always had a strong connection. She would always fly me to American Samoa, and so I've spent a good amount of years growing up in American Samoa as well, in the village of Aua. All of my cousins, my mom and her sisters, my grandparents, we always had talent shows. We always performed lip singing. And so growing up in that kind of environment naturally inspired me to continue to create, whether that's coming up with dances, performing, writing poems, singing for fun. The environment that they created made it easier for me.
So you were talking about talent shows. I wonder what that looked like.
So when I say we're performers and entertainers, like it really is mostly for like church functions. But my grandma would do this thing where every week we would have family home evening. It's like a family prayer, but we incorporate a fun activity or family game. Her favorite activity to make us do was talent show. And because it was frequent,
Mhm.
I feel like it challenged all of us to get creative and think of something new to do. It wasn't like these big island-wide showcases. Most of the time, it really was for the family in our living room with everyone sitting around. It wasn't always fun, especially as, as a teenager. It's like, okay, I had a bad day. I'm having drama with friends. I'm not in the mood to perform, but they were pretty strict. One of the biggest rules was don't be famangaya. And if they tell you to get up, you better get your butt up. You better lights, camera, action. Put your feelings aside and the show must go on. Looking back, it was a lot of fun. Even with those few moments of whoever crying, but you weren't in the mood to get up. I didn't know it at the time, but it instilled great values and lessons that would help me even in my adulthood.
I think that's a good lesson, like me, because I just get over sometimes like, oh, I'm so tired. But at the same time, it's like, sometimes we don't always want to do something in life, but it's just to move forward. And that's what life is, right? Keep pushing forward. So I think that's actually a great lesson.
I love that.
Oh, you're the one who's guiding me here. I like that actually. You also went to BYU. I remember coming across an article where you did some fashion designing. And so I'm curious with all that, what's something about that fashion journey that you enjoyed the most?
Yeah, you really did your homework with that one because my life is constantly like all over the place. I don't even remember how that came about, but I think they had approached me and asked if I would be willing to have just a space in their fashion catalog for the school. Before I went to school, my husband and I were fostering, seeing our babies and stepping into this new role. I feel like it allowed me to tap into just a different side of myself. We went from 0 kids, just us alone, being a young couple, and then jumped to 2 toddlers. So I was navigating not just motherhood, but the whole fostering system and how that works. I feel like it allowed me to tap into just a different side of myself. I'd always kind of wanted to get into content creating, but was just a little shy. I wanted to get back into school, but then I was like, I'm in my 30s. Like, I'm scared of what everyone's going to think. I wanted to join a pageant, but I never really. I remember talking with a really close friend of mine, and she told me, I think you're going through postpartum. And I was like, huh? I felt like it answered a lot of the high and low emotions that I was going through. I just made the decision to just crawl myself out of whatever it was that I was in. And from then on, I decided I was going to go for whatever it is that I wanted to do. And that same year, I was navigating all of that. Student, being a foster mom, marriage. I started content creating. I joined a pageant. I applied to school. And so getting into school, I started with fashion as my niche or niche. I knew who I was, but it was just a fun aspect, like a little pick me up, just one way that I could start off my day kind of filling my cup. And so to me, that's what fashion was. And I noticed that with my daughter, she loved it too. And so that kind of became something that I would always do with my babies, spending a little extra time to match our outfits and get cute for the day. I feel like it helped have an empowered mindset to start
I
off my
love
day.
that. It is funny because I enjoy watching Mel Robbins' podcast, and one of her recent guests was all about style. Instead of looking for what should I wear to please other people, it's like what should I wear to feel my best. And I think that's what fashion is supposed to be. Instead of how someone else wants us to be, it's more of how we show up to the world. So I thought that was interesting that you talked about that. I thought you grew up, went to college, and then somehow you got into this fashion journey. But it sounds like the fashion journey kind of came later. On top of that, you're fostering kids at the same time. It's like, wow, this woman is like doing so much.
Fashion was always part of my life, I guess, but there was a different intention with it. I had a different experience with fashion in this season of my life. It was more of an outlet that I was able to share with my kids, where it was fun, it was empowering, it was creative. Whereas before, it was like, okay, I want to look cute for the day. Like, I just, feel like it meant something different at this point in my life. And content creation as well. Going through everything that I was going through, I felt like I had no outlet. I've always been a big time journaler, but there was a lack of connection. I'm such a people person. I'm always hanging out with my friends. I'm always like talking to whoever, nurturing relationships. But when I became a mom, I feel like a lot of that was no longer available to me because now my full time and attention and energy is all going to my kids. And so my husband comes home, he's working all day. The priority was there, but I'm missing this huge part of me. I think a lot of moms are really hard on themselves and can definitely do better at prioritizing themselves, filling their cup so that they can show up in the best way for their family. Shout out to my friends, shout out to my girls because they really made time. We would hang out at like midnight to 3 a.m. because that was like the only time I had to wait until everyone was sleeping and all the household chores were done and my family is good. And then I can take care of myself. That was kind of a non-negotiable for me. Like seriously, 11 p.m. I'm like driving a whole hour and a half or 2 hours just so I could have this outlet to fill my cup. And social media and content creating also became that space where I'm going to give myself permission to express. This is my outlet. And so that's what content creating was for me.
I love that life continuously changes and we're never going to be the same. People think life was just very linear, but there's always going to be ups and downs, ebb and flow in our lives. From then to now, how has content creation evolved for you now? Has that still remained as an outlet of yours, or has it evolved into greater opportunities for you?
Great question. I feel like I'm still trying to navigate my relationship with content creation, just all the ebbs and flows of life. And that has affected my relationship with content creation as well. When I first started, it was like the outlet where I could express. But then what I didn't really expect was for opportunities to come. And so when opportunities started coming, I'm like, oh, wait, this is cool. Like this could be a thing. And so That's when I started to be a little more strategic about it. I ended up linking up with my high school best friend, and she was also a content creator. Shout out to Ash. We started getting together and collab, and more opportunities started coming in. Like really fun ones. Like Torrid was a huge one for me. Plus size store in the malls, in the outlet. That was the peak of me pursuing it that year. There was a lot of success. And then all of a sudden we felt prompted to move to American Samoa. So we've been here for like a year and a half now. And again, not part of my plan. I feel like God just loves to make himself known like in the middle of me just kind of la di da, I'm having fun, I'm doing great. Just being like, okay, here's a challenge, or here's a little curveball, and me having to choose to trust. And I would say that's where things changed for me with content creating, was when we felt prompted to move back home to American Samoa. And I came here and my mind was still set. I'm still gonna do content creating, but when I came here, it's a whole nother thing to navigate. And so I kind of fell out of love with content creating. And I thought that it was just because I was emotional. I was missing my babies. They're in Hawaii. Like I missed my life over there. I loved my college experience at BYU Hawaii. But there's a lot of new things about moving here. And even though I made this choice, we're gonna trust your plan for us, it still was extremely hard. And this one thing that started off as my outlet, it was like no longer serving me. Even when I kind of found my footing here and in a better place, I still was struggling with it. And so even just this past year, 2025, there's been a shift. And I think the only thing that I boiled it down to was that it just isn't the priority right now. Like maybe the priority is just focusing on our family time here, on learning more of the culture. It was our first year here, and I was navigating a new job and trying to find a place of our own, and our first time as a married couple living in American Samoa with both of our families present. And there's so much. At a certain point, it felt like I was forcing it. I was using like old content from when I was in college and posting that to keep my account relevant, because anybody who does content creating knows consistency is what's gonna keep you. At that point, I was just like, this is not feeding my spirit. I need to cut my losses and do what I feel is right for me. I try to be like honest, like even in my little captions, I'm like, this is from 2023, or the 2023 me inspiring the 2026 me. Like, just to make it known, like, this is not me today. I think that was just me trying to get that energy back or my love back for content creation. But it just wasn't there.
One of the things that I do see, even though you're not feeling it, you're still doing it in some way or another. You're very self-aware. I love that you're being very
Mhm.
raw and honest about it. That's pressure I feel, especially with social media. Like, in order for you to grow, you got to be consistent. You got to keep going and doing all this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so painful. But I love that you're like, oh, well, I'm using something that I had in 2023. I don't know if it's the right term, recycling it. I think that's a great tip for people, even for myself, even though you're like not in a space where you were before. I love that you're still doing it. I still see you posting.
Yeah,
I see
well,
you still showing up.
just last month I decided that's where I was trying to figure out which one is it. Is this the season where I gotta like push through and keep showing up? Or is it your spirit telling you this is not what you should be focusing on? I've been having this struggle for a couple of months now. And so I'm going to make the decision to not pursue this as a business anymore. Ever since I made that decision, all of a sudden the pressure is like released and I'm like posting more consistently
I
than I
love
was
it.
before. So maybe some things are just okay to be a creative outlet for you. Maybe the business side of it was putting that pressure, but I think going back to what I initially started with, a safe space, showing up as myself, and the opportunities kind of coming naturally. And that's why you've been seeing me on more, is because I feel like I'm accepting where I'm at, and I definitely feel a lot more peace with it. Some things you just can't force.
I think that's what it is. When we create it into something where it's creates so much pressure for ourselves that we forget what gave us joy. I'm glad that you're able to recognize that. You were mentioning earlier trying to navigate moving back home. I was thinking, well, everyone thinks when you move back home to an island, oh, it's just like chill, relaxed kind of vibe. Nothing much. I was like, I don't think people really understand that it's very different because there's so many follow love is happening. For me, it's like going home, it's like focusing on my own family is a whole lot, but I can't imagine being married to another someone. You're not just marrying a person, you're marrying a whole family as well. It's like, oh, when you go home, there's really nothing to do. But I feel like there is so much to do back home.
Yes, I agree. I shared this with anyone that I've caught up with that has asked me the same question. I'm like, you could either be going 25 miles per hour and honoring the speed limit or going 100 miles per hour because there is the reality of it being such a slow paced. You can definitely have that life if that's what you want it to be. But that's not the life that I have. I feel like if you want to have an experience, you have to create it. And to me, if you want opportunities, you have to create the opportunities. If you're out there involved, if you're active, it's not just going to these places and having an experience. You have to actually create it. Even with my first job that I got was at a nonprofit. A lot of the work that we were doing, we had to create these programs that we don't see available in our community. And so I feel like you can easily become very busy because you're not like going to the plane, flying it, and having an amazing experience. You have to find the pieces, you have to build it, and then you have to figure out how to fly it. And then it can be easy just to get busy. So I was juggling work, church callings, family. It's our first time living with both of our families, and then all the other traditional events that go on as well.
I love that you said that. It's like building a plane while you're flying it kind of situation. And I love that you actually frame it in that way. And there's limited opportunities, but I do see a lot of people utilizing the resources they have to create the life that they want. There's a few other people that I know back home that are just slaying it with the work that they're doing. That's something that I also wanted to talk about is because while you are in American Samoa, you've worked with EPIC, empowering Pacific Islander communities. And EPIC is based out here in California. So it's interesting. How did you create that opportunity?
So it's not my nonprofit, but somebody else created that. I'm just in this this mindset of like, just because you're following what you feel is God's plan for you, it doesn't mean that He's just gonna hand you all the things. I had a lot of anxieties. I was going through a hard time. I had so many fears. One of those fears was becoming completely dependent on our parents, and I didn't want to be a burden on them. I had this huge desire to find a place of our own and then to find work right away. My major was psychology at BYU Hawaii. Even though I didn't finish because we dropped everything and moved, I put myself out there. I remember sitting in my parents' home and borrowing my mom's laptop, searching on Facebook for mental health nonprofit organization. I wanted to get hands-on work experience in the mental health field, stick to what I was studying because I enjoyed it so much. I was very hands-on as a student at BYU Hawaii. I wanted to continue. I had found something I was really passionate about and didn't want to lose that coming here. Even though in my mind, there's no resources here, I was so determined, maybe even desperate. I used it as my fuel. And so I looked up different mental health nonprofits, whatever jobs I could find. And EPIC was one of those nonprofits. I reached out to a couple. They reached out pretty quick and I didn't get hired immediately, but I did have a conversation with who later became my boss. We had a conversation and that didn't really go anywhere. But then I saw a flyer on their Facebook page that there was a mental health summit. It was island wide. At the time, I thought it was open to the public. I don't know, maybe it was, it wasn't, but when I got there, I walked in so confidently, all dressed up too. I was like, I'm gonna look the part, I'm gonna play the part, I'm gonna be the part, and I'm gonna go for whatever opportunities come today. And I got there, and all the tables were set up in a way where it was like an organization here on this table, another organization, one department, another department. And I'm like, where's the guest table? And good thing my mom and my auntie was there. They were there on behalf of the departments that they work for. And so I got to sit next to my mom. Thank goodness it was a very hands-on interactive program where it allowed me to really showcase my voice and what I could do. That's how I ended up getting it. I had an opportunity to make another impression, but this time in person. And so from that experience, you really never know who's watching and who is there, who's listening. I feel like you just need to show up. So I got hired on as a counselor and caseworker. Then after a couple months, she put me in charge of overseeing victim services for Epic.
I think that's pretty cool. I love the organization, especially because they're out here in SoCal. I volunteered time, I tagged along with my cousins, and they had something with Epic, and we went up to UCLA. So I'm a big fan of the work the Epic does. With your work at Epic, and which pivots our conversation, because I think this is important. April is Sexual Abuse Awareness Month. When it comes to sexual abuse, men can be, but women mostly are victims of, and considering that you were in the counseling services, maybe you could share with us tips to recognize sexual abuse.
We didn't just cover sexual abuse, but we covered abuse in general, whether that's emotional abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse. And I think it's a lot more common than not, and especially amongst our people. All of the clients that I've been able to work closely with were all women. And I think I would say one of the patterns that I've noticed is they're a lot more hesitant, or maybe they gaslight themselves into thinking that it's not abuse if it's not physical. I think it's important for women to know that they have a voice and to know that it's okay to speak up and to ask for help. Even though there's a lack of resources here on island, it doesn't mean that there aren't any resources. And so that was one of the things, was trying to have that exposure and let people know that we were a service that was available to them. A lot of times they're just waiting for people to ask them. And so a lot of times if you just ask, if you're willing to have those conversations, or if you feel like there's something that need to be addressed, or there's a discomfort with a friend of yours or a sister of yours, and maybe you suspect that there's signs of abuse in that relationship, just having the courage and ask them directly. Because a lot of times people are just waiting for people to ask if they're okay, if they're safe, and if they need help, and being able to hear that it's okay to ask for help. I don't know where it comes from or where it stems from, but I know that that's another huge part, is they feel that they're weak, or that it'll look like they're weak if they ask for help.
I think it's just part of our culture. My perspective is just growing up and just being told, be strong, don't cry. That's something that I've always been taught. I am very emotional. I am one of those people that bawl and cry so easily. As someone, I think that's just not something that we grew up as, to be okay to cry it out, or it's okay to let it out.
Even something as simple as validating somebody's feelings goes a long way, whether you're a victim to abuse or not, because like how you said, it's just in our culture to grow up in households or be in spaces where we have to be strong, we have to be tough. And that looks like not being able to cry, or not being able to have too many emotions. I've noticed when my clients are opening up about something and giving them validation over their feelings goes a long way. And I feel like you don't have to be a counselor to do that. That simple free skill for us to be able to show up and to empower the women around us just by our natural conversations. If they're feeling some type of way, and not just shutting it down and being like, okay, get over it. Stop crying about that. Just making sure that we're changing the dialogues and that we're mindful of our responses, because that can do damage or bring healing.
You talking about, like, just get over it. Growing up, my cousin knows, her experience has shaped my approach in terms of relationships. I remember going, why? Why can't you get over this person? There's nothing that holds you back. You have a good family. There's no reason for you to stay with this man. My naive self at the time was just kind of like, you can just get up and leave. I couldn't understand until I went through my own experience where I wasn't getting validated for how I was feeling. There was no abuse, there was just like an emotional attachment to that person. I know this is not the right way to be treated, but I still kind of wanted to stay on because I wanted to make it work. I recognize that's how my cousin feels through that experience. Do not judge a woman. You seem to be able to relate easily to these women. Did you just always just had that empathy growing up? Because that's hard for me to understand mentally until I went through my own experience.
I thank you for sharing that. I can relate to it as well. Like, I know I shared in the beginning of our interview that A lot of my friends, cousins, they have used the word empath to describe me. The more I've learned about it, I'm like, okay, yeah, it's just a natural part of who I am. Like you, I feel like I've always been a little too emotional for my own good. When I was younger, I would cry all the time and I would get bullied for it over things that I didn't know how to put words to it. And I felt like that was my weakness. But I later learned that it's my strength. It allows me to connect with other people. But I think that having such deep emotions externally, it wasn't really accepted or viewed as a strength. Internally, maybe there was always this self-awareness that it was okay. But I think that experiencing that to not be in a safe space to have all those feelings externally and to really express all of that, I just never really wanted other people to feel that way because I know what
Yeah.
that feels like. Another thing that I've learned in this field and also from just personal experience growing up is that a lot of times we want to fix people. Somebody comes to you with a problem and it's like, okay, well, just do this or just do that. We just want to provide this like quick fix so they can magically be better. But one thing I've learned with emotions from personal and professional experience is more than just wanting to be fixed. Like, we're not this project. Sometimes we just want people to be there. So now if somebody is coming to me and they're saying, I'm going through all this stuff. And my first thought is not, okay, let me tell this person what to do so they can stop feeling this. It's more of like, let me tune everything out, all of my worries in my brain. Let my feet be here, let my mind be here, let me be fully present for this person. Cause I think a lot of people just want somebody that can just be there with them
Yeah.
in the highs, in the lows, and not always wanting to be fixed. I also have this belief that we all are so much more capable. And a lot of victims that come in, they're in a space where they just need me to be here with them. Over time, they're able to let everything out. Instead of me fixing it, it's using these conversations, these spaces to empower them to identify even just one small or simple thing that they can do to have a little more control over their life or to put themselves in a better situation.
I love that, creating a safe space where people can have that conversation. Because sometimes when you don't feel safe, you're not able to really express ourselves. So when I was going through my heartbreak, I am very fortunate that I have a very good friend. Shout out to Marina. That friend that is willing to listen to you, validating that, hey, you are actually a really smart woman. You should never feel this way. If it was my old self talking, I'd be like, I don't want to hear you. This is ridiculous. You're constantly going back to this person. I can't understand you. So I'm just grateful for her. And I think what you said is very important. Sometimes we just stay in relationships that are not healthy for us. This is what I'm just learning, is that you can't control someone else. Someone else has to decide that they're going to change. And why I want to bring this up is because that's sort of the mentality that we have, is that, oh, they're going to change. But if you continuously do the same thing and stay with that same person, the reality, it's never really going to change. It just validates the opportunity for them to continuously treat you bad. Coming back to this topic about sexual abuse, anytime you don't feel safe at all, that's a big red flag. And I think that's just what women need to understand. The moment you're physically hurt, step away. And people just need to recognize that. Sexual Abuse Awareness Month. And it's something that I personally care about because it's something that I have witnessed. And so that one little hit turns into multiple things. I don't want to speak for my cousin, but for having witnessed her getting stabbed, it's like, when are they going to end? And that's why I want to have Dear Single so much, is because when you see someone who's just like you, who knows your experience, who knows your background, your culture, you just feel more connected to them in that way. And that's why I feel like sharing, because every woman, every experience is going to be different.
I agree with what you're saying, that a lot of times the signs are pretty obvious. I think it's just empowering women and making sure that they're aware of their environment. Listen to that
Yes.
voice, pay attention to your feelings and honor it. I think abusers do a really good job at manipulating and gaslighting you. And so you really have to just be aware of yourself. Pay attention to what it is that you're feeling. If you feel unsafe in a conversation, if you feel unsafe in your relationship, even if it's not physical, I feel like those are good indicators or signs that are telling you that you're not safe. A lot of times it really is just they're searching for love. They have either never experienced safe love or love in general. Everybody wants to feel loved. Everybody wants to feel seen. Everybody wants to feel heard and cared for. One thing that I always try to help them realize is what are the emotions that are going on. Anytime you're in an unsafe relationship or unsafe environment, what are the feelings that come up? Is it constant anxiety? Is it fear? Is it all of those feelings are indicators of an unsafe relationship. One of the things with Epic, it wasn't just providing counseling, but it was also connecting them to resources, helping them find jobs, helping them connect with the government and getting their kids in daycare, holding their hand, picking them up, taking them to these places. Because a lot of them come from situations where their husband or their partner is the breadwinner, is the main provider. And so they don't have the confidence to leave because there's this fear that if I leave, like I won't be able to take care of myself. So I think there's that aspect of EPIC or empowering Pacific Island communities. It's empowering victims and helping them develop certain skill sets and so that they can and just giving them that help and assistance to where they can get on their feet again. And so whether that's through a nonprofit organization where, we have that type of assistance or that service available for you, or if it's a family member or a friend, really showing up in that way too.
What I love about this conversation, you're not a specialist, I'm not a specialist. And even though there are resources, that doesn't necessarily just fall on an organization, but the people around us to support each other. Majority of the time, women that are going to be in this situation aren't going to just automatically just reach out to people. They're going to first turn into their own circles for help. And sometimes we shun these people because they're just going back to this person. And so it's just an encouragement to people that even though it seems they're just in this pattern, but remember that they have to unlearn this, and learning this takes time. It's helping them recognize these patterns. I know this is not the easiest conversation. With the podcast, it's having these real, raw conversations about people's lives and what they do. It is also hopefully to help a woman recognize her own strength, having them go out and be able like I can do this, and to step away from that is building their confidence. And we had talked earlier about fashion, and you mentioned you got an experience with Torrid, and I feel like Torrid doesn't just pick women. There's something about you in terms of your confidence, body positivity for sure. For myself, I struggle. I'm currently going like, okay, I've gained so much weight, but at the same time I'm like, okay, whatever is I'm gonna enjoy whatever size I am gonna be in. I'm going to be confident in that. So I'm curious, like, share some tips on how you continuously stay body positive.
It's so hard for me to put to words because I feel a lot of it is I'm just doing me. But I think that having that foundation of knowing who you are and accepting who you are and loving who you are is so important. Because if it's just fashion, if it's just the makeup, I feel like a lot of that will fade. But if you have a strong foundation, like everybody is screaming at you on like who you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to wear, all of that becomes just a decoration. But if you know that you're loved, you bring value to this world. If your confidence is stemming from that foundation is unshakable. Everything else will be added onto it. I was a chunky baby, and then growing up, even in high school, I look back at pictures and I was like, I was so petite. My body went through so many changes in different seasons of my life. There are times when it affects my mental health, but having that foundation sets the confidence. When I say confidence, one of the most common compliments that I get, I appreciate it so much, but I just want to tell everyone I'm not always confident every second of the day. I was talking to my good friend about the difference between confidence and courage, and I've learned to appreciate courage so much more. Let's say you're in a mood or you're in a funk. Obviously, I'm not feeling confident today. I'm not looking my best. I'm a little insecure about this. I have some fears here. I'm a little nervous, but I feel like courage is really digging deep and like challenging those thoughts and being like, I'm gonna show up anyways. I'm gonna show up
Mm-hmm.
as me. Even if I'm not feeling my best right now, but I'm gonna still show up. I am who I am. I know that I'm loved. Whatever the affirmations that remind you that you are that girl. That's always going to be more than enough.
Throughout the conversations we've had, the theme that keeps popping up is show up. You know, in anyone's life, in your own life, you just got to show up. So I love that. You know, your IG username is Someone Spice. Now tell us how that name resonates with you.
So, mind you, started content creating as this fun outlet. And so with that, I'm like, I want a little stage name. Like, I want to brand myself. And I wasn't really thinking too deep about it. So that I'd be forgetting that there's like even an audience. I think that's so important is to really look within yourself. Like, who are you? And I think that Someone Spice speaks to one huge part of me. I think it just speaks to the fearless side of me. It speaks to the courageous, bold side of me. It speaks to the big dreamer, all the big Delulu dreams that I have, and really giving that energy on this platform. Like I said, there's so many different sides. There's the emotional side of me, there's the church girl side of me. I knew that this was a space that I was going to show up with this energy. And so I came up with Someone Spice. It changed between Someone Spice and Lala Spice. I was kind of torn between the two because Lala is my family nickname and I wanted something that was going to ground me. Spice was like, I'm a soar, like I'm gonna fly as high as I can. I'm gonna do all the things, but I wanted something that was gonna keep me grounded and was rooted, reminding me of who I am, where I come from. I ended up going with Someone Spice because I wanted some kind of someone element in there.
That's wonderful. While you said that, I just thought about Beyonce and how she has her alter ego. Is that who you are every time? I can only speak for myself. I'm a total homebody. I am standoffish at times. Not so much that, but it's like protecting your energy kind of thing. I think that might be a pressure for a lot of people too. It's just have to show up as this person. But it's okay to also just show up because this is the persona. This is everyone has different facets of who they are. And it doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily have to be this is me all the time.
That's what I struggled with the most with branding was like, I need to figure this out. I need my bio to make sense. And I feel like Someone Spice is just one side of me, but I don't want people to think that it's like always me. We tend to put people in boxes when we don't belong in boxes. No matter what the brand is, I'm going to use social media as much or as little as I want it to be. My stories, that's usually where you get the most vulnerable sides of me. That is the little space that I have where I can really like pour out more of my emotions, and then the reels are more like the spicier side of me. But I think there's so many different ways on social media, off social media, to show up as you are. Whether that's showing up emotional and being more vulnerable, or sharing your testimony and your spiritual side, or showing your spicy side. There's so many different ways to go about it, but not boxing yourself in.
It's being unapologetic. I'm showing up, and this is a part of my life that I'm willing to share with all of you. You definitely gave some great insights. There's so many people out there that love your content. You definitely bring such great energy. And I love that you're able to share that vulnerable side with us today. For the woman that's out there who's tuned in because of they know your platform and what you do, what is something you would leave her?
Thanks for following. Thanks for supporting the journey. If there's anything that I would want to leave with women, it's to find out who you are, find out your passion, what sparks joy, and just do it unapologetically, do it fearlessly, or even do it with fear. That's something that I've realized in my journey is that in different seasons there's anxiety, there's fears, but don't let the world, social media, or any other influencers don't dictate you.
That's wonderful. I love that. I appreciate you, Sala. We've kind of taken some time to just kind of make this happen. And yes, we made it happen. Whether it's different seasons, different journeys, we're always here together. So thank you again for taking the time to be here with us. If this conversation inspired you or gave you strength, please click the like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps us to keep that Pacific woman's voice alive, the space to thrive, and stay connected. Thank you for being part of Dear Sunga, and I look forward to welcoming you in our next episode. With all my alofa and mana, soy full my iya manuia.